Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fine hour or two of the inevitable and inscrutable Donald Kent. What will he talk about today on his show? Will he talk politics? Will he talk culture, history, philosophy, religion? Will he share his personal problems? Will he share his insights? Dating advice? Financial advice? Predictions for the future? Let's find out on the Donald Kent Art Show. It's a nice rainy evening. Got a little old time jazz in the background, kind of relaxing feeling with my window open and the rain pouring down. Feeling very cozy indeed. I even have a little cup of coffee. And interestingly, I recently discovered a place where I can buy buckwheat honey. Ooh. So I like to put honey in my coffee, and I'm telling you, buckwheat honey in coffee. Winning combo. So that's very nice indeed. I only have 3 more pages to finish up this segment of the graphic novel, The Alliance. It's given to me in 12-page snippets. I don't know what to call it, like chapters. And, you know, I have a kind of freelance protocol where I get half up front and half on delivery. So that's just a little inside scoop on the freelance world. And then I believe there are 2 more issues, which is really more like 24 pages. And I believe that's going to be a wrap for this graphic novel. So they should be launching it. They want to make sure that it, will launch by Christmas. Colorizing it, lettering it. These things take time. So, what is today? I think it's the 28th, 27th, 28th of August. Yeah. So, das ist gut. I'm really anxious for people to see the animations that the company built. The company being New Delphi Media. That's the group that's publishing this story. Yeah. So, yeah, I've showed the animation videos to a couple people, and they're like, "Oh my god, wow!" When you actually see the CGI and all that, it's pretty crazy. Mucho crazio. See, my Spanish is getting better. This is a picture of the Capitol building, but from a distance. So you draw things from the distance. You have to understate whatever that thing is. You can't, yeah, the eye can't see all those details from far away. Caravaggio. All right. Great to have you, man. I'm assuming you're a Caravaggio fan, one of Europe's greatest painters. Uh, do you know much about his personal life? He's a very, very, very controversial figure. Um, but regardless of that, um, he changed the art of painting forever. He sort of, I guess you could say that he invented certain devices that influenced other painters from then on and elevated painting to a new level, which is important. It's a pretty big deal. Mucho big dealio, as they say in Spanish. You see how good I am at Spanish? No, I'm kidding. I don't speak Spanish. But, it's sort of, it's kind of like a little pretentious game that I have where I say words that it's like faux Spanish, basically. You know. So so Caravaggio, what's going on, man? How's everything in your world? Are you a painter? Ooh, there's an interesting conversation. Are you a painter? That'd be interesting to know. I assume you're a supporter of the arts in some manner. We got a couple people lurking. It would be lovely to see you say hi. I have a little sense of who's here. It's always nice. And if you guys have any questions, that's great. Caravaggio says, I'm not an expert. I was using the image before I adopted the name. But yes, a very interesting life. Ah, okay, so you do know. Okay. All right. That's the other thing about doing this type of architecture is that people will see the shape of it and they just know, it's very iconic. So they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's the Capitol building. Even though if you were to take a photograph and hold it up to the drawing, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's wrong. That's wrong. You don't have to get it right. It's not some kind of test. You're communicating a story. And when people read comics, they read comics. There's a flow to it where it's like a movie. There's a certain flow to the story, and you're moving along, and you're following what's happening, and yeah, all that. So you're not going to spend a lot of time oogling over a tiny image of some kind. It just is there. It's like in a theater play or something. You have sets in the background, that function just to create the illusion of a location. Anyway, Caravaggio says, I read a couple books and watched a couple documentaries. Nothing academic. Have you studied his life works in depth? In depth is a bit strong. I wouldn't go that far. Excuse me. Um, boy. Okay, so when I was a fine art major in college many years ago, excuse me, you're required to take art history, several classes of art history. It's not just like one. It's a really important part of the fine art major. Excuse me. And so, pardon. There's certain, as you're going through the history of art, there's kind of like notable people, but then there's the big ones that are like, okay, there's this person changed art in his time, and Caravaggio was that for his time. So there was more time and attention put on his work. So what that would mean is that from a fine art perspective, we would study what is it that he did. We're not, in a sense, looking at the image so much of like what is it. Well, it's a bunch of, it's like the Last Supper, or what I mean, like things of that nature. It's more about how did he use light in this image, or how did he use the composition. um how is he using the paint in such a way that's never been used before. um his paint handling is exquisite. It's very, there's a lot of blending in such a way that it's very realistic. But primarily he's known for his light, the dramatic lighting that he used. As a person, I'll say, like, I think he was a monster. I think he was a horrible person. He's probably in hell or something for the type of things that he did in his lifetime. Um, he's no moral, uh, person to be like, oh, I want to be like him. No. You can study his paintings or whatever. You can learn from that or whatever. But as a person, he was a terrible person, which is an interesting thing to think about in terms of like, he was commissioned by the church to do all these religious paintings, and that was the norm of the day. The church controlled the so-called art market, if you will, and that's that. And then, of course, you kind of have a place in history because your work is within the context of the church's history, and like famous basilicas or churches around Europe, da da da. And so, whatever, there's that. But he's in no way an example of a Christian, I would say. You um, Murdering pedophile, I think, is maybe a better description of him as a person. Um, but that opens up an interesting can of worms in terms of how do you separate or connect the life of the artist themselves, with their work? That's kind of an interesting question. Um, how could someone who is in no way really Christian produce works of art that have really profound kind of spiritual qualities, um, and that have like inspired Christians? You see what I'm saying? And have earned a place in kind of Christian iconography or Christian art history at the very least. Um, it's controversial. I think I would say that's a sort of an interesting and controversial conversation. Um, Caravaggio says, "I don't know. I don't think he was a saint, but I empathize somewhat with him personally." Well, how so? That is an interesting conversation. How so? Share that with us, if you will, if you would be so bold to share your personal thoughts on the matter. Um, um, this is really an important and a very under recognized aspect of the arts, is art critique and how to critique art. It's a type of literacy. It's a cultural literacy, and that is that um, people need to know. They need to understand what they're looking at, and how to judge it, you know? And since that's kind of like taken out of society, and now we have Jewish postmodernism where anything can be art, and you know, banana duct tape to the wall is art, and all this stupid shit that goes on today. Um, it's a denigration of society. It's an attack on beauty and aesthetics. It's a demoralization of Western civilization. So when if you have no sensitivity towards that, then you should go to your nearest toilet and stick your head in there and flush. That's my advice to you. What else can I tell you? Let's see. Um, but let's move on here. I don't know. Well, you okay? You don't have to answer that question. That's fine. Um, yeah, Western civilization, the arts, these are really important things. They're things I'm obviously deeply invested in. It's in many ways the kind of niche that I occupy within the white identity movement. Um, it's so funny because like I have a lot of followers and they're very anxious for me to become like famous. Like there's like you should have so much more, recognition and stuff. And I'm really touched by that. I mean, that's very moving and I'm very grateful for that. Um, my time's coming, but I don't, it's like I'm not really striving for that. That's not my goal. I suppose if I were famous per se, that would actually help me to accomplish the goal of having financial freedom to just make art and music every day. If I could, I'd have a studio, a music studio, with the full, all the fixins, you know. What else? An art studio with like and when I say an art studio, I mean um, a painting studio where I could get back into doing like really, really large canvases. And I would do like 10, 12 foot tall canvases, with like epic artwork, epic paintings on there. And I would go full throttle Aristotle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I would definitely do comics, but everything is like a kind of a time investment. So I would finish the what do you call it? The one that I started, um, Maga Force and Militia Man. But then I think I would switch gears into getting back to fine art, into painting, and just I, I don't feel like I'm a great painter. I feel like I need to. I'm really really good at watercolor. That's kind of my go-to or whatever. But I want to get back into oil painting. I think oil painting is an important part of our history, culture. It's traditional, all that. And there's just something wonderful about it. So I want to get back into that. That's kind of the dream. Yeah, I love comics because they're of the narrative form of the medium. Um, I've said a million times that comics is the poor man's filmmaking. And if I could afford to, I would make movies. Um, in fact, maybe I would do that if you know what I'm saying. Like, I got lots of ideas for short films and various things. Anyway, let's read some comments. Caravaggio says it's complicated. My family comes from a very working class place, but was sorry, but was involved in BB, which gave us some status growing up. We were on the periphery of power, if that makes sense. Wow, dude, that is extraordinary. That is really, really extraordinary. Um, Not much I can say about that on YouTube. I think you can figure out why, but pretty wild. Um, I actually would like to talk about that, but I really think that it's not a conversation for YouTube. I think you know what I'm trying to say. I think you know what I mean. Anyway, hmm, well, I had a brilliant day today. Um, Maybe should I continue talking about aesthetics and things, or should I talk about what I had for lunch? Oh my god, I had this amazing, went to this special restaurant. That's what normie social media is. It's just people posting pictures of themselves on vacations, what they ate that day, at being at the gym. It's this like it's basically a gigantic ego infomercial. Look at me. I'm living my best life, you know. And I even on my normie account, I I still post very thought provoking stuff. Mm, I many times I'll post something that's too political and then delete it because I'm like I want to post this so bad. I want to shed the word so bad, but then I'll say no, because you cannot function among these people. They're normies. Okay, they're normies. They cannot handle reality. So don't do it, and otherwise you won't be able to go out among them and do fun things. Um, but there's some among them that know who I really am and what I'm really about, and they love it. I mean, those guys are the cool guys. But I'm kind of waiting. Oh, let's see. Robert Pyle's here. Hey, Robert. What's going on? How's your show doing? Are you on Odyssey, Robert? What do you do on your show mostly? I mean, I've seen your show, but what's the stuff that you can talk about that a little bit in the chat if you like. You can post your link if you like. Get some people over to your show. It's the Robert Pyle Show on Odyssey. Check them out. Now, Robert, would you say that you're part of the no white guilt community? Is that sort of where you come from per se? Do you understand my question? Do you do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I appreciate your presence, Robert. Thanks for being a supporter for so long. Um, Caravaggio says, "Lol, I completely understand. Did you see the comment about the mirror technique? Would love your opinion on that." I did not. Let me scroll up. Mirror technique. Let me scroll. I don't think he was a saint. Oh, wait a second. Let's see. Hold on. I read a couple of books, watched a couple. I read that. What do you think about the mirror technique theory? David Hockney was a documentary has a documentary proposing this was how he achieved such realism. It's been such a while that I've been in that world of research that you're going to have to refresh my memory. That sounds very familiar. Is that where you paint a subject through a mirror rather than looking at them directly? Is that what that is? Um, I'll tell you for myself, I do have a trick when I draw or paint something and I'm trying to determine, is the anatomy correct? How does this look? I'll take a photograph of it and then I'll look at the photo. And this is so weird, but immediately in the photograph, I'll see what's wrong with the image. And then I can go in and erase something and fix it. And why is it that I can't see that just straight? Let's say I'm drawing a person, doing something, and whatever that might be. And then it seems a little wonky, or I can't quite get it right. Or maybe a portrait of someone, and you've got to make it right. It's got to look like the person. Take a photo of it, and then when you see it's kind of at a smaller scale on your phone or something, I don't know what it is, but the eye just it plugs right in immediately. Because here's the problem with art. Here's the problem with art. You can do an amazing work of art that is 99% perfect, and everybody will just focus on the 1% that you didn't do well or didn't get right, and they'll just fixate on it. And so, like, you can never be 90% right. You have to be 100% right all the time. Um, you know, Whatever that might be. It could be anatomy. It, who fuck, it's many different things that could go wrong, I guess. Um, Pyle says, I just do whatever I feel like doing, really. Sometimes play music, movies, sometimes talk. Okay. Caravaggio says, yes, pretty much. They hang a large mirror and project a reflection of the subject directly onto the canvas. Oh, then trace it. Okay, that's different. That's a whole other thing. Because that's literally tracing is what that is. And so they did have there's different names for these things. You can buy those things. Like you can go on like Amazon or whatever and look up. I just don't remember the name of it because I don't use that. That's essentially cheating. Um, like in school, like in high schools and stuff, they'll teach a drawing technique where you draw a grid on a piece of paper and then you draw a grid on a photograph of something you're going to draw. And then what you do is you'll just draw every box in the grid and match them over and over instead of looking at the whole thing and learning how to really draw like an actual artist who's really trained. This is like the cheat method. And that's because high school art teachers are not real artists and not real teachers. They're just feminist Marxist robots that, propagate the notion that your feelings make you special and anybody can be an artist. And oh, look, Van Gogh's Starry Night. I'm going to hang that up in my art room. There's this entire generation of like shallow liberal women that are in charge of the arts institutions, major arts institutions, and they have no they have no capacity, ability. They're just they're really there to, knowingly or unknowingly, they're destroying art basically like in our culture with all their like cutesy crafty bullshit. That's not art. And they just don't understand. They're shallow, they're fucking shallow, and they don't They don't have deep thoughts or feelings, so they can't understand it in others. Does that make sense? And they reward people who are just like, well, mostly women, like, someone who does not, fit their political agenda. They're not going to get grants. They're not going to get exhibitions. Are you hearing me? So I had that problem years ago when I lived in New York City, and I was trying to get a show, and get hooked up with a gallery, and they rejected me, and I'm like, what the fuck? My work is good. It's better than a lot of the shit I see on these walls. But the art world is no different than the music world or the film world, where it's kind of like who you sleep with. Are you getting my point? Yeah. So, in fact, one of my professors, who I won't say his name, but he's definitely famous in the art world. He has a work of art in the Museum of Modern Art, the MoMA in New York City, and he comes from a different generation of artists in the 1980s. But anyway, he explained to me that what you do. Um, okay, he did not do this. This is a story from another artist in his kind of circle that became famous. Okay, if you guys know who Robert Longo is, that's who I'm talking about. So Robert Longo told my teacher this story, and the story is this. Sorry, you do your artwork. Excuse me. You get a space to show it in, and then you contact all of the art critics in New York City. You tell them there's going to be a show, and they're invited, and then you pay for prostitutes for all of those art critics, and you send the prostitutes to them, and then they come to the show, or they might come to the show and meet the prostitute there. um and then the following week you have rave reviews in all the art magazines, and oh, Robert Longo is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's the new sweetheart of the art world, and him and all these other idiots that, I forget this one woman's name. She just takes pictures of herself, Cindy something or other. She puts makeup on and then puts herself in, kind of recreates situations, and it's like, oh, the feminism, feminism. Oh. They made her a star. She's shit, but they made her a star because all the magazines and all the galleries say she's good and important, and price her photographs really high. Suddenly she's an artist, but she's not. She's a propagandist, and a bad one even at that. At least, and so Robert Longo is a guy that would use these type of like cheap. Uh, and it's basically a projector that there's a way that they project uh, stuff onto a canvas, and then they just draw it. And it's like any monkey can do that. You see what I'm saying? But this is a part of their message, is that learning actual art skills like what I have and what normal artists have is white supremacy. That's the patriarchy, and it must be dismantled. Oh, well, you wonder why Donald Kent doesn't have a show in New York City now? Ah, I get it. Ah, the light bulb is going off on top of your head. You see me walk in there, and like this man is white supremacy. He is the patriarchy. You know, we have to shit on him. So, Project I kind of started the Red Ice and Millennial Woes. I'm reading. Robert Pyle says he started with Red Ice, Millennial Woes, Crowd, then TRS, and then I went to Odyssey, started doing my own thing. Good for you. Good for you. What's going on with TRS these days? I haven't followed that in ages. I never really followed it closely, but I had a lot of friends who did, and I would just kind of, you know, gather whatever from them because, they would talk about it all the time. Um, YouTube won't let me post my link to the chat here. Of course they won't. They tried before, and my comment just doesn't show. Of course, of course. My channel is like controlled. There's somebody, you know, involved in fucking around with my chat and stuff. Uh Carvalho says David Hockney was a document has I read that already. It's called a camera obscura. Thank you. Or something like that. Well, actually, I don't know if that's the actual. I think camera obscura is like the very first camera, but I could be wrong. It's been a long time. But critics love that. That's completely believable. There's lots of money, reputation laundering going on to, I've heard, promote a young artist, buy their work cheap, inflate the value, then auction for tax deductible charity. Wow. Yeah, I thought about having an art show years ago, having pole dancers as part of the exhibit, but not to bribe art critics. Robert says, I don't keep up anymore myself at TRS. I kind of had falling out with them, but I wish them well. Okay. All right. I gotcha. I gotcha. Hmm. It's kind of interesting how things change, like different people become sort of more relevant in our movement over time for who knows what reason. I'd say like Fuentes is really out front right now. I really want to talk about something, but I was kind of hoping that there'd be more people here. Um, I don't know who's in the chat, if they're like our people or just, like lurkers that like art, like comic book people. I don't know because they won't say hi. But do any of you guys know Brendan O'Connell? He has a really, I like him, but he's terribly wrong on some new thing that he just published, and I feel like I want to call him out on it. Um, he's a political commentator guy. He does deep dives on exposing all kinds of stuff, and you know, I think he's a great resource for anybody who wants to know how the world is really run and what's going on and the connection between all these things. Um, he's like a guy that like went to prison and was like tortured in prison for doing that kind of work. So he's the real deal in this regard. But he's also a human being and not perfect. So I disagree with him on a couple core things. He's able to point out Israel and what Israel does, and like Heinz Kissinger and various people, Jewish people, and their Zionistic agenda, blah 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 blah. But he has this kind of like Christian approach of sort of like somehow, regardless of all of that, he still doesn't. He's not us. He's not one of us. Like he hates the white identity movement. He's really really against it. Um, and if he doesn't like you, like he'll fuck man, like he will rage on you. He'll just say the worst shit that he can think of. And so he just went after Nick Fuentes, and I know very, 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 very well, much better than he does about what's going on with Nick Fuentes. And what is happening here is that Brendan O'Connell's take really, really looks very much like he's just jealous of not being as relevant as these people like Ian Carroll and Nick Fuentes. And he does like character assassination and uh, diversion. Like he'll you know talk about some topic that isn't the actual topic and make it sound like that's what's that's what's important. And so that's literally controlled opposition, but I think he's doing so unwittingly. I think he's doing it more out of his ego. Like he wants to be as influential as Nick Fuentes. So I only got through like the first fourth of his new video on Fuentes, and I you can already tell. I mean, he states pretty clearly what he thinks and what what it's about. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go back in and watch the rest of it, but I want to share it with friends who are also in the know. And it's just crazy how when people have certain biases, they can't see past these biases. Um, and then also people who are like extremely egocentric, that they don't realize like that's like their greatest weakness. And they can't see that because it's just not, that's the nature of the ego, is to deceive. Um, um, so I started actually writing a response to the video in the comments section to basically say like I'm not like gonna attack him. Not gonna like say mean things to him, attack him personally. What I'm going to do is state like here's the actual reality of what's going on for his readers, which he's essentially gatekeeping, and saying no, that you're saying XYZ, but that's not actually what's going on. This is what's going on, A B C D E F G. And so I'll lay that out and we'll see if he attacks me, if he deletes my comments, or maybe he'll do a show on Donald Kent and, you know, dig into my past. You know, I'm going to find out things about my past. Oh, we have to assassinate his character. We're going to go after him. Oh, yes, it's white nationalist, Donald Kent. And white nationalism, white nationalism. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, fuck. You got to realize, like, not everybody is going to agree in this world. And there's nothing remotely wrong with wanting to stop white genocide and look after the demographic interests of your people. You know, he sees through that Jewish cartoon lens, the cartoon Nazi lens, where there's a evil Nazi behind every bush, under every rock. And like then he had, oh, because I'm so Christian, I this is why I don't go for this. And like whatever, I'm not gonna judge your spirituality or something, but like if you were Christian, you would want to stop white genocide. If you were Christian, you would speak the truth about the Jews. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very Christian, you know. But he hates Nick Fuentes, and he even went after Ian Carroll, who is an amazing like case of like someone who came from like an extreme left, uh, sort of like I don't know, is it Washington State, Oregon, like someone from that culture, who just through what is technically called classical liberalism. He just did his research and he's like, okay, well, if this is true, then what's the data, or what proves the truth of that thing? Well, I'm going to do some research, and he did his own fucking research, and he went way, way beyond the cult of leftism, way past that. And then he discovered, oh shit, the people on the right wing are correct, and the left is who's wrong. And then he just kept going and going and going and going. And where do you come? Where's the end of the rainbow? It's the Jews. That's the end of the rainbow. And Mr. Genius Brendan O'Connell still can't fucking say that. You know, it's weird. It's so weird. And we've seen this before in all kinds of other cases and situations where, you know, it's a kind of, I think of it as like a psychopathy of some kind where, it'd be like, okay, were you at the scene of the crime? Yes. Did you see the blue car hit the red car? Yes. Do you know who owns the blue car? Yes. Okay. Is Mary Jane the owner of the blue car? Yes. Okay. Did Mary Jane hit the red car? No. Okay. Well, you said yes all the way up to the final question where I told you to point the finger at Mary Jane, who in this case, of course, would be the Jews. And like they just won't do it. They won't do it. And I personally think it's a Christian thing. There's a very disturbing psychopathy or neurosis that Christians have to protect the Jews. And of course, that's used against them. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, this is essentially me grasping at straws here, trying to figure out like how can you be so smart and so dumb at the same time? Because it's, you know what I mean, like you can't get this far in speaking the truth and then pull out right at the last minute when you're about to say the big one to get to the final truth. Why would you do that? You know, we've seen it though. That's not unusual in the movement. Like we've seen, it's very strange. Like I don't understand the behavior entirely. Maybe there's a fear. Maybe it's just a lifetime of propaganda. Maybe it's a Christian belief. You know what I'm saying? But it's real. It is a real problem. And it was like Lucas Gage. Um, I know my fans will know who Lucas Gage is. The FBI right now is like, okay, who's Lucas Gage? Look him up. Look him up. Go to Twitter. Anyway, I remember when he started off on his Name the Jew campaign, and he was really, he's an ex-military guy, so he's like, I'm not against anybody. I'm not trying to like make grotesque uh, generalizations, but these are the facts of the situation here. And so what I'm doing is I'm calling out to Jews of goodwill to, you know, get in touch with me and, you know, call this out with me, like with the Zionist agenda, all this stuff, And in my mind, and everybody who's been in the movement for so long, we already knew what was going to happen because we've done that for years, and it's always the same result, which is there's very, very, very few. They do exist, but very, very, very few. Um, and he ended up. I was just like, look, I'm not even going to try to tell him anything. I'm just going to let him discover by himself. And sure enough, he discovered like you're not going to find that's not the case. Like they're in on it. They are in on it. They know it. They know what they're doing. They know that they don't want us to know that they know what they're doing. It's a conspiracy. It's a real conspiracy. And you're like, oh, let's come forth and you know denounce Zionism, denounce Noahide law, denounce white genocide. Nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. And that is heartbreaking. That's sad. That's a terrible thing. Um, it's pretty wild. I've had Jewish friends throughout the years, back in college and on. It's sort of college. You meet all kinds of people at college, and so um, and it, like if they knew, where I am now on the political spectrum, I think they'd be horrified. Um, and they would not believe it for a second because it's like, oh, I thought you were like Buddhist Don or some shit, which is great for you because that means, oh, just be peaceful and don't don't have kids, like that kind of like it fits the agenda. Anyway, yeah, he found out. So, are there any comments? Oh, lol. Okay. Lol. Lol. Um, well, I love rainy days. Guess maybe I should move to England. When I think about moving to Europe, I think like if I do that, then I'm going to be a part of the revolution over there. But I essentially would go to die there. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, this is it. It's like joining the Crusades. It's the new crusade. Mm. Can I talk about something more peaceful, please? I have to talk about this stuff. Let's see. Peaceful, peaceful. What is peaceful? Sometimes silence is peaceful. There you go. And in other cases, silence is violence. Oh boy, speaking of violence, there's several Catholic children that are not alive today due to a crazy Jewish transgender fruitcake. I posted that on my Normie account just to kind of shove it in the face of the liberals there. It wasn't like gays are bad or it wasn't like that kind of a comment, but more like the families of these people are suffering now because of X. They should be aware of it. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's a nice little Capitol building. It's a nice little Capitol building. All right, we got a couple people still hanging out. Let me ask people who are watching, why are you still here watching this show? It's an interesting question. What the hell are you doing there? I ain't got nothing better to do. They're here for your hot takes, Donald. I wonder if you guys can hear the jazz in the background. Um, it's like coffee house jazz, you know. It's very chill. Robert says, I don't keep up anymore. Oh, I read that. There's no new comments. All right. Oh, boy. Three people left since I asked them why they're staying. They're like, yeah, good question. Why am I staying? Symphony is here. I hear a note here and there, but not really on the jazz. Well, it's quiet. It's not super loud. It's just something for my pleasure, I guess. Hmm. Hmm. I think I have an idea. Symphony says, waiting for the next thing. Gotta get more parts for my motor rebuild. What kind of motor are you rebuilding? Are you like a motorhead? Do you like to build cars and do that kind of thing? That is a thing, indeed. I really wish I were more mechanically inclined. That would be a great thing. Um, I know a lot of people that are really, really handy. You know, they can just sort of like take care of their own cars or install, you know, electrical systems in their house or, you know, various. I've got a friend that invents free energy machines. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to get whacked. Um, what else? I am in over my head, but learning as you go isn't too bad. Cam filters heads on a SBC 350 for an 80s Camaro. Hotte totte. Oh my god. That sounds really fun. Good for you. Good for you. That's great. Um, I'm assuming it's not a cheap hobby. I don't know if it's your hobby or you're just like doing it because you're doing it. I don't know. But just putting that out there. Putting that out there. Summertime is car show time, and it's really fun to go check out like the really old hot rods and shit. It's kind of fun. I didn't really get around to too much of that this summer, unfortunately, but it's fun. I would drive by them as I was on the way to work or some shit, but they're just a nice part of summer. Sort of a community thing, I bought the car thinking it needed a simple tune-up, but too much of the previous owner's choices didn't work right. Yikes. Yeah, I got some serious car headaches. Um, just not a fun thing to talk about, but so I won't go down that road. I can talk about rape gangs in the UK, but I can't talk about fixing cars. Yeah, I don't know. That can really screw people up a lot of times. A lot of people they're just getting by. They're just like a paycheck away from total fucking devastation. And, that's the world, the America that we live in, the wealthy, wealthy, wonderful world of America, where everybody is so comfortable. What did I read? 18 billion has been funneled from American taxpayers to Ukraine in the last couple of years or whatever, however long the Ukraine war's been going on. I don't know how long it's been now. 18 billion of our fucking money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fuck you. And then Zelensky's like, oh, I want total war with Russia, total war. And then I see this post on Twitter. This Jewish woman, she's like, as a Zionist Jew, I can tell you that the Ukrainian war has always and only been about killing off white Christians, you know, and it's in the fucking it's right there in the Talmud, it's right there. Ukraine has been like a hellhole for that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Poor Ukraine. God, they suffered so much over the years. They were so happy when the Germans came and liberated them from the Russians, from the communists, or rather Bolsheviks, I should say, really, which were Jews. Um, I mean, the Azov. Uh, you probably have heard of the Azov. Those are essentially like the Nazis of Ukraine. Um, I'm not an expert on it, so I'm not going to try to you know talk too much in depth about it. But I always refer to my friend CG whenever this topic comes up. Yeah, imagine how many paycheck dependent people could be semi solvent if it wasn't for all that stolen money by inflation. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for Americans to be struggling. The amount of the billions of dollars that we're sending to other countries, not just Israel, Egypt, I forget, there's another country um, bordering Israel that gets payoff money from us. And when I say us, I mean the fucking government, which is controlled by the Jews through APAC. So they've got it all covered. The whole thing is a fucking scam. In a sense, you could almost say there is no America, because it's just mm, that's just a mask for Israel. Of course, there is America. That's you and me. It's the real people of America, the founding stock of America, the people with more than three generations of family from this country. That's the real America. But I sometimes say, like, there is no America because, like, everything's fucking fake. Let's see what's going down here. We got a couple comments. Yeah, imagine read that. Wasn't Himmler trying to fill the hollow earth with Ukrainians at the South Pole? Wow. I've never heard that before. That's crazy. Pyle says, just shared the link around. Hopefully, it will attract more people to the channel. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Manifest Destiny Americans. There you go. There you go. This character I'm drawing is the Chud meme. Do you guys know the Chud meme? Nothing ever happens, guy. Only we've turned him into a vampire, basically. Um, I know the meme. Good. Wow, that looks pretty good. Hmm. What do you know? All right, so I know the meme. Okay, I got someone new in the chat who's dropping by. So the joke with this scene, let me back out a little bit. The Chud comes out from under the tunnel, and the sunlight, being a vampire or whatever, kind of burns his eyes. And he steps on grass. He touches grass and then bursts into flame. But have you ever heard the phrase "touch grass"? Do you know that? That's kind of a expression these days. Like, touch grass in this economy. Have you ever heard that phrase? So it's sort of a joke about like people sort of stuck inside with their jobs and their whatever their internets and this and that and the next thing. So it's I don't know. I guess if you know the joke or know the phrase, it's probably more funny. What? Touch grass in this economy? Well, it's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Um, Unfortunately, I work Saturdays, so that ruins my Friday nights. Um, um, a friend of mine's having this big house music party on Friday nights. It's starting at like 9, you know. So I'm like, oh shoot, man, I wish I could join you. You know. Anyway, that's a blowout. Um, Saturday, I've got two things lined up that should be like okay, but I'm not like super excited about them. It's really just like better than staying home, kind of, if that makes sense. Um, I know I'll run into some people, but it's just like a low expectation evening, if that makes sense. However, Sunday is the big shebang. That's the big one, the big event, and I'm really looking forward to that. Um, I also reconnected with a young lady who I was getting to become very good friends with, and won't go into any great detail on that, but we have reconnected, so that's adding a little spice to my life, which is very nice. It's very nice. Yes, Donald needs spice. Must have spice. And she's really fun. She's like really different and unique. So it's nice. Honestly, like a lot of the girls out there are just like, you know, very entitled and narcissistic, you know. Sorry, but it's reality. And this girl's she's a lot more like me, like kind of my speed is sort of what I'm saying, I guess. So, we can vibe. Woohoo! Um, no expectations, just, enjoy. Well, it's gotten awfully quiet in here. Seems like I should say something. Should I? What do you guys want me to talk about? You throw out a topic and I'll do it. Anybody got anything to throw into the ring? Uh, Nothing. Okay. Well, you guys aren't much help. Mm, it's getting a little late for drinking coffee. I'm just finishing it up. Were you here when I mentioned the buckwheat honey that I just got to mix into my coffee? Nummy, nummy. Robert says, I'm kind of editing a video right now as I'm watching the stream. Feel free to randomly talk about whatever you want. Well, that's what I do normally on the show. I was just curious if you guys had anything that you were interested in hearing about. I suppose if you're still here, then, you know, you don't mind me talking about whatever, I guess. Um, mm, Tiny, maybe I have like a little grievance to throw out. Um, there was quite a while back, there was a comment made about complaining, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we're talking about problems that are real and are huge and are affecting us you know in a very serious way, and to say like, oh, you're always complaining and when you're not doing anything about it, it's like, it's like, I don't know how to say it. It's almost like a sort of a victim blaming kind of mentality or something. I don't know. Like, why would you have to talk about issues? You know what I'm saying? And if you don't like it, you don't have to stick around and fucking listen to it. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, you're getting paid to do that, right? Oh, now I get it. Oh, okay. Oh, I get it now. Okay. All right. Well, that's enough of that. Let's move on to the next. It just occurred to me I need to put some drop shadow under these guys. There you go. All right. Yeah, I guess some things that are kind of going through my mind at the moment. Earlier, I was talking about Brendan O'Connell's recent video critiquing um, Nick Fuentes, excuse me, and how wrong he is and how petty he seems by doing that. Um, and then it just kind of occurred to me like this is one of the reasons why I'm not trying to be an influencer. I don't not trying to make a living from having a channel and getting out there and trying to be like the guy that has all the hot takes. And I do that anyway, just talking about shit, but not, I don't make a living from it. I don't, you know what I'm saying? So, and I don't have myself like so invested in it that like it's my internet identity, whereby, you know, if somebody contradicts me, then I have to attack them with the fury of hell, to like try to go after their character and da 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 da. So what do I tell you? I don't know. But I do see this, you know, on and off throughout time. You'll have like somebody who is big. They got their channel and they do their thing, and something will go wrong, so to speak, where you know someone will contradict them or attack them on some grounds, and then it's like an all-out war. Like, oh, this person, and then, oh, I dug up this information about that person. And he's from like a much older generation. Like he doesn't understand um, the kind of humor that people of Nick Fuentes' generation have. I don't like it. I can't personally say that I get it, but I don't like it. Is essentially like I was not a Nick Fuentes fan for the longest time, exactly because I didn't like all the kind of shitty, crude, weird jokes that they would make. But if since I have a son and I was a teacher, I was around younger people and I saw the kind of social media that they watch. And a lot of it is like very inappropriate humor. It's really gross, weird humor that is very uncomfortable. Like that seems to be the joke of it is like talk about the most uncomfortable thing you can think of. And that's what they do. It's like that's people have made millions off of like doing shows about that kind of shit, just stupid stuff that's very is brain rot is what you call it. You know what I mean? Like brain rot. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. The older you are, the less you'll know, because it's like we don't get it. We don't think it's funny. It's not funny in my opinion. But like if you're, I don't know, fuck, if you're 20 or 18 or 17 or 15 or something, you somehow this is like the humor that you grew up with. It's probably from growing up on things like South Park. South Park has some really gross, inappropriate humor. You know what I'm saying? Like a friend of mine, his son is, like he's a little older now, but I can remember just being over there and he's hanging out with his high school buddies. And the kind of like gay jokes and shit that they do are really like horrible to me, but they think it's funny, and I'm like, this is disgusting and weird. And like no one in my generation would be caught dead making jokes like that. But somehow it's funny in their world. I don't know. Um it's just not me. It's like I've never been a lowbrow guy. I've never been a lowbrow guy. I don't like lowbrow humor. I don't. I'm not. Like I can laugh at a joke or whatever, but it's just not really me, and my friends know that. And some people are. Some people just they like the kind of dirty humor or whatever, or like raunchy, inappropriate humor. And I would say that early Fuentes was very much like that, which is again why I never followed him because of that. Like, okay, fine, you can be America first or something. That's good. I agree with you there. But after that, it's like I don't want to stick around for your gay jokes and shit. Like it's stupid and weird, in my opinion. Too old for that, I guess. Robert says I like lowbrow stuff, but I can only take so many gay jokes before I start to think the guys telling them is most likely gay themselves. That's exactly what I think. I'm like, why would you even want to talk about that? The topic is so disgusting and weird that like it just shouldn't be talked about as far as I'm concerned. Like I'll never talk about those things. And to joke about, I don't know, it's just makes me sick. That's all I got to say about it. Like da, 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 especially if there is a really raunchy. Yeah, you're literally saying exactly what I feel about that topic. So yeah. My thinking is that that generation, it's sort of like that was how they rebelled. It's like I don't know, maybe because like this woke LGBT shit was just like around them all the time, and their teachers were so into their pride flags and they were supposed to celebrate it. And so that's why they joke about it the way that they joke about it. That could very likely be the case. Um, I'm just trying to make some sense of it because I don't. It just is disturbing to me. But I think every generation of kids has some kind of form of rebellion, whatever that might be. Um, whatever the adults or the authority is telling them they're supposed to do, they'll do the opposite of that, whatever that might be. You know. Okay. All right, guys. I think that is the end of the page. So I believe that will be the end of today's show. Um, I don't know if this was a very good show, but it was our show. I shall leave you. It's too bad we just got a couple people that just joined. Um, I suppose you can watch the playback if you really want to. But anyway, thanks for everybody who came, and hope you enjoyed the show. Hope my commentary was not too annoying. Um, Hope you'll come back. Feel free to engage. I really, really like to engage with people in the chat. That's what keeps the show exciting, is us going back and forth and stuff. So more engagement is always a good thing. I hope you like the work, and I'll see you next time. Okay. Adios.